Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to Promotech, thanks for tuning in. Google just launched the Pixel 11 Pro, the smaller sibling to the XL, and even though it doesn't get the headlines the bigger model does, it's carrying almost every one of the same quiet trade-offs, plus a handful of its own worth digging into properly. A price jump, a RAM cut, a missing sensor, a zoom spec that isn't quite what it looks like, some AI features that sound gimmicky until you actually see them work, and a foldable adjacent camera story that most people are going to completely miss. Let's dive right into the video. Start with the price and the RAM situation, because this is the one that actually affects your day-to-day experience the most. The Pro line saw a price increase this year, and at the same time, the base RAM dropped from 16 gigs down to 12. If you want that 16 gigs back on the Pixel 11 Pro, it's not sold to you on its own. It's bundled into a storage upgrade that adds another $100 on top of an already more expensive phone. Some of this comes down to memory prices spiking across the entire industry right now. That part's genuinely out of Google's hands. Every phone maker on the planet is dealing with the same supply crunch. But it still means the Pixel 11 Pro is asking for more money while giving you less memory to work with out of the box. And that's a hard pattern to spin as a win no matter how you frame it in a keynote slide. And here's the part that makes this RAM conversation even more important than it looks on the surface. Google's own Gemini Nano model, the thing actually powering the smart in this smartphone, already sits around 6 gigs of RAM usage just to run and interact properly alongside your other apps. That's the current version. The next version is coming, and every version of this model has gotten bigger, never smaller. 12 gigs isn't a comfortable buffer sitting there for smooth performance. It's closer to the bare minimum for the full Gemini experience to function properly. So if you're buying the base Pixel 11 Pro today at 12 gigs, you're not just buying a phone with less headroom than last year. You're buying a phone that could be one software update away from Google quietly telling you it can't run its own flagship AI features the way they were designed to run. That's less of a spec cut and more of a soft expiration date baked into the base model. Second thing worth sitting with is the highlight light cluster on the back, and this is exclusive to the Pro tier, so the Pro XL, and the Fold all get it, but the standard Pixel 11 does not. It sits where the flash used to be and works as an advanced notification light, glowing a specific color for certain contacts, and pulsing in a flowing pattern while you're talking to Gemini, then shifting to a different pattern when it responds back to you. It's genuinely a creative way to visualize your AI interaction without having to stare at the screen the whole time. And honestly, I don't think the concept itself is bad. If anything, having a passive visual cue for when a voice assistant is actively listening or responding is a genuinely good idea in 2026, especially as more of us are talking to our phones instead of typing at them. The catch is you need the phone face down for it to actually do anything, which means more scratches over time, which means more people throwing on cases they wouldn't normally bother with just to protect a feature they now have to hide underneath plastic. And to make room for this feature, Google had to remove the temperature sensor that's been standard on every Pixel Pro since the Pixel 8 Pro. So on the Pixel 11 Pro specifically, you're trading a sensor that's been there for 3 straight generations for a light show that a lot of buyers are going to end up hiding under a case within the first week of ownership anyway. Third, let's get into the camera on the Pixel 11 Pro specifically, because this is where it splits from the base model and the Fold in an interesting way. The standard Pixel 11 and the Pro Fold both got a new, bigger main sensor this year for better light intake and cleaner image quality across the board. The Pixel 11 Pro did not get that new main sensor. It's carrying over from last year's hardware unchanged. What it did get is an improved telephoto sensor, pushing the super zoom up to 120x. But keep the actual optical zoom in mind, it's still just 5x optically on this phone. Everything past that number is heavy AI reconstruction, Google generating detail to fill in what the sensor never physically captured in the first place. It looks genuinely impressive in practice, but it's worth knowing that a 120x shot on the Pixel 11 Pro isn't really a straightforward photograph anymore. It's a photo with a significant amount of AI filling in the gaps for you behind the scenes. Fourth, the battery and charging story is a mixed bag on this model too. The Pixel 11 Pro now supports faster wireless charging at 25 watts with Qi 2.2, which is a nice, welcome bump for everyone regardless of which model you pick up. But the Pro devices actually shipped with slightly smaller batteries than last year, not bigger. That only makes sense if Google is confident the new Tensor G6 chip is significantly more power efficient than the last generation. If that efficiency actually holds up in daily use, nobody will ever notice the smaller cell sitting inside. If it doesn't, expect that to be one of the most common complaints once real-world reviews start rolling in for this specific model, because a brighter screen and more AI processing running constantly in a smaller battery shell is a genuine gamble either way. There's also a broader software story worth digging into here, and all of it applies to the Pixel 11 Pro as well. There's a new magic capture mode that records video and automatically pulls out intelligently selected, cropped, and cleaned up still images while you're filming, without you doing anything extra. It sounds like a gimmick on paper, but in practice it's genuinely more useful than it sounds, especially if you've got kids or a family where pose photos always come out stiff and awkward. This just lets life happen naturally and quietly grabs the nice, candid moments for you in the background while you're not even trying. There's also a new teleprompter feature built into the camera app that loads a script and prompts you as you talk, adjusting speed based on your natural pace. Though realistically, this feels like a niche ad for a small slice of creators rather than something most Pixel 11 Pro owners will ever actually touch or need in daily use. The voice-to-text tool is the one I'd actually call a standout feature this year. It cleans up your natural speech, strips out filler words, and can even handle small logic corrections on the fly, like adjusting items on a list as you change your mind mid-sentence. And it's seemingly processed entirely on device without needing a connection. And there's a new live translate feature that now works across videos and podcasts, not just phone calls like before, translating speech in near real time while attempting to preserve the speaker's original vocal tone and even their accent characteristics in the translated audio output, which is a strange but genuinely impressive detail once you hear it in action. On the design side, the Pixel 11 Pro comes in 4 colorways this year. Obsidian and Olive get a matte finish on the frame, while Fog and Canyon keep the polished metal look from before for anyone who prefers that shinier finish. The Pro also got a slightly brighter display than last year's model. Nothing massive on paper, but a brighter screen is always appreciated when you're outside fighting glare or trying to read something quickly in direct sunlight. If you're new here, this is what we do. We go past the spec sheet and dig into what these launches actually mean once the keynote lights turn off and the marketing team goes home. And it looks like over 70% of you watching right now still aren't subscribed, which is honestly wild because you're clearly the type who wants the deeper read, not just another unboxing video. If this kind of breakdown is useful to you, join the community, hit subscribe. It genuinely helps this reach more people instead of the same surface-level coverage everyone else keeps putting out. So here's where I land on the Pixel 11 Pro, specifically after going through all of this. You're paying more for a phone that starts with less RAM against a growing AI model, loses a sensor it's had for 3 straight generations to make room for a light feature, keeps last year's main sensor while leaning heavily on AI to stretch its zoom number into something bigger than it really is, and bets entirely on chip efficiency to make up for a smaller battery. None of these are deal breakers on their own, and honestly the software side, Magic Capture, the voice tools, Live Translate, is genuinely impressive and worth acknowledging. But stacked together on the smaller Pro model specifically, they paint a picture of a company managing rising costs by quietly redefining what you actually get for the Pro name this generation. So I want to know what you think. Does the highlight light and the software upgrades justify the price jump and the RAM cut on the standard Pro for you personally? Or does this feel like a step back dressed up as an upgrade once you actually break it down like this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And let me know if you want a full comparison against the XL model next. Take care and stay safe. I'll see you in the next one soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.